What day is it? Track day.
It is track day.
Track day. Brent.
Day one of track day.
Which is labeled Streetable Track and Competition.
It is.
But, categories have gotten a little wonky lately, right? I mean, we like to divide things up into nice, neat little performance categories so people know what to expect when they buy a tire from that category. That you're generally the same family, and that's just different flavors within. And this is Streetable Track and Competition, which used to be pretty clearly defined. Then Hoosier happened, introduced the Track Attack Pro. It is a streetable track and competition tire based on the way it performs, particularly new, wet traction. There are other tires out there in the market that look every bit like a streetable track and competition, but they're 200 tread wear and they're 7/32 of an inch, so dogs and cats living together, all of that. But adjacent to that is not every rules organization follows tire rack categories. Some of them just say, hey, these group of tires perform similarly, regardless of tread depth or UTQG. Choose one of them, which, of course, is just as good of a system as any. So it's not always just perfectly cut and dried.
The first tire is a true blue streetable track and competition, the Goodyear Eagle F1 SuperCar 3R. It's our control tire.
Yep.
Very nice to drive, very consistent. One of the reasons it is our control tire.
Yep.
Second spec is Hoosier Track Attack Pro. Last year, we weren't super happy with it. This year, we have hopefully cooler temps. We have a little more camber. We'll give it a second shot, see how she does. Third tire is not even streetable track competition whatsoever. It's extreme performance. And that is the new Bridgestone Potenza RE-71RZ.
Yes.
Obviously, we're big fans of the S. Great tire, another one of our control tires. And we're going to put the RZ up against these two because it is, frankly, the RS was cross-shopped and the RZ is going to be cross-shopped.
Yep.
It is absolutely in the mix for some of the fastest tires out here in the dry. Track day.
Track day.
Our Streetable Track and Competition tire testing uses two 75/35/18 tires mounted on 10-inch wide Sparco FF3 wheels. This year we've added camber plates, and our car has 2.5 degrees of negative camber on the front axle. The hot inflation pressure we're using for each spec was determined through our testing on our skid pad, and you can check out that video for more information on the process. Before the skid pad test, all of our sets received a tire rack heat cycle to eliminate any first heat cycle anomalies. To make sure our brakes are solid and fade-free to avoid any unintended variables, we're using Hawk Performance DTC 70 brake pads in the front and DTC 60s in the rear.
When reporting lap times for our road course testing, in the past we've used the average time for each tire. Over our years of testing, we found that almost every tire is capable of a single outlier fast lap. Generally, it's on the first time lap before they reach their eventual full hot temperature. For anyone participating in time attack, the fast lap time is usually more relevant than the average, so now we publish that data as well. Our test day was warm and partly sunny, with morning temperatures in the low 70s that only increased to 75 by the final lap. Track temperatures were more variable, starting at 68 degrees and reaching 105 by the time we finished.
The Eagle F1 SuperCar 3R is familiar to us at this point, but we still walk away impressed after we drive it. It has huge grip, it's easy to drive, and it's always very consistent across all our timed laps. It takes a little bit of heat to come in, and unlike most tires, its second timed lap was always the fastest, and it never fell off before we were finished with our testing. It set the fastest lap in the morning and in the afternoon, and had the fastest average lap time across the whole day.
The Potenza RE-71RZ required the driver to execute on the first timed lap. It worked best when it was cool, so it was important not to push too hard on the outlap. Then we had to be on full attack every turn of lap 1, and any mistake was a missed opportunity because the tire didn't have the same magic on the second lap. Following this initial fall off, it plateaued and performed at a consistently high level, but it could never match its cool performance. It wasn't overly affected by increasing track and ambient temperatures though, as it had the least lap time degradation between the morning and afternoon sessions.
Subjectively, the Track Attack Pro is a great tire to drive. Turn-in is very direct, and it has just the right amount of rotation to be useful and fun. Objectively, it was the tale of two tires between the morning and afternoon. In the cooler morning session, its first lap was very fast, and it fell off gradually with every subsequent lap. In the afternoon, it slowed significantly, and while its first lap was still the fastest, there was a big drop between laps 1 and 2, and it never came back. It remained consistent from that point forward, but at noticeably reduced pace. Despite setting the second fastest lap in the morning session, it was third of 3 for fast lap in the afternoon and for average lap across the whole day. Utilizing the ferrule arm we use to measure vehicles for wheel and tire fitment, we were able to compare the wear rate between the tires in our test by measuring the change in tread depth on the front left tire from each set, which is the position that sees the most wear in our testing. We measured the tires when they were brand new and then again after we were finished with our testing. Gray areas indicate that region of the tire has 0 to 0.5 millimeter of tread loss, with more severe wear of 1 to 3 millimeters progressing from yellow to orange, and finally red, indicating 3.5 to 4 millimeters lower tread depth than a new tire. The 3 tires in this test have experienced identical usage, consisting of 18 laps in each direction on our skid pad, along with 16 laps at GingerMan Raceway. Of course, the wear is a result of our test protocols on our vehicle with our drivers, so your mileage may vary.
The wear results between the 3 tires in our test were similar overall, with some variance from tire to tire. The Eagle F1 SuperCar 3R experienced the most overall tread loss, with 1.5 to 2 millimeters everywhere and closer to 2.5 in the outboard shoulder and the inboard intermediate rib. The Track Attack Pro was very close to the Goodyear, exhibiting 1 to 2 millimeters of degradation everywhere and 3 to 3.5 concentrated in the outboard shoulder. The Potenza RE-71RZ was a step above the other 2. It wore around 1.5 millimeters across the whole tread face. There was some concentrated wear in the outboard shoulder of about 2 millimeters, and some beveling of the intermediate rib reaching about 2.5 or maybe 3 millimeters.
All right, so that was a day, long
Yes,
day
it was.
of testing Streetable track and competition tires.
Yep, they knew their roles and they played them well.
Right? What about lap times?
Yeah, Goodyear Eagle F1 SuperCar 3R, the Streetable track and competition tire, had the fast lap.
We use it as our benchmark. It is the reference for speed for the category for a reason, right? The Goodyear was kind of by itself, and then the Hoosier and the Bridgestone were very close together, right? Yeah, and I've talked to you about this already, but of course I can't help but wonder, what if we had shaved the Bridgestone before we started and it had 5/32 seconds starting tread depth just like the other 2 tires did, you know?
I think we may have a different story if we did that.
We very well may. But anyway, that was not the purpose of this test. This test was new to new. So here we are. Of course, they all had small amount of wear on them from our skid pad test, but they were essentially still at new tread depth. When we talk about average lap, which is average lap time across our morning session and our afternoon session, it was a little bit cooler in the morning, and then we found some heat, some sun in the afternoon. Then what happened?
The Goodyear was still on top.
Oh, nothing changed, that's right.
Now here's our flip-flop. The Bridgestone had a significant advantage over the average of the lap times, over the morning and the afternoon.
Last year, it was really, really hot,
Yeah.
and the Hoosier did not perform as well as the fastest 200 treadwear tires.
Now we're scratching our heads a little bit.
Right.
Yep.
When it was cooler, the Hoosier was ahead of what could be the fastest 200 treadwear tire or extreme performance summer tire. When we got sun load, when the track got a little baked, things changed.
Yes, sir.
So we're beginning to see a pattern here. So we'll keep that in mind, maybe.
Oh, there's definitely a pattern.
So the Goodyear was just consistent all the time. It just comes in kind of gradually like a normal street tire, and then just stayed consistent. You know, not
minimal fall off.
Right, minimal fall off. Yeah, maybe a little bit here and there, but essentially not so much. The Bridgestone, we had to be a little bit more careful with.
Yes.
You could feel like, man, I don't want to overdrive the front tires because then they're going to spike in temperature and it's going to punish me a little bit later.
I had the same feel with the rear end. You know, there are a couple corners that you're maybe not right on line, so you add a little bit of throttle, you try to get the tuck in there, and I'm going a little sideways. You kind of make that conscious decision, okay, am I going to just commit to throttle here and maybe drift out a little bit wide and spin things up a little bit? And it would let you get away with like 1 or 2 of those in a lap. But if you try to do more than that, you're going to start paying for it at the rear end. And then before you know it, turn 10 where you really need to be on throttle.
Right, and
now,
you
and all of a sudden, it's toast, you're baked.
Right, so maybe got to be a little bit cautious with it. Drive it, under you. Don't overdrive the front. Don't overdrive the rear. Like, make it neat and tidy, and that's how it likes to be driven.
Yeah. Maybe
then,
shave it down a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? That might change with less tread depth. We don't know. Anyway, and then Track Attack Pro. It's very pointy, has big grip.
Very pointy, yeah.
It was consistent across its morning laps were all consistent for both drivers, and its afternoon laps were consistent for both drivers.
Just consistently slower.
Consistently slower though.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's strange. It wasn't falling off. It's not like its first lap in the afternoon was magical and then it was terrible by the end. It just stepped down and said, okay, this is me now. Like this is the way things are now. So
still nice to drive even in the afternoon.
Absolutely, yeah. So cool takeaways for subjective, cool takeaways for lap time, heat characteristics. We hope you found these takeaways cool as well. If you're interested in watching the other videos from our time up at the track, we've created 4 this year. There's one for our comps, which we call racetrack and autocross only tires, one for the Endurance 200 segment of Extreme Performance Summer, and one for the Super 200 segment of Extreme Performance Summer.
Something for everybody.
That's right, there is something for everybody. If you have any questions, other feedback, leave them in the comment section below. We try to read and respond to as many of those as we can, and be sure to like and subscribe, of course. And as always, thanks for watching.